a tick-borne virus with up to 40% fatality rate. Most people have never heard of it, yet health authorities monitor it closely. Today, you'll learn what Crimean-Congo Hemorrhagic Fever really is, how it spreads, and why it puts global health on high alert. What is CCHF? Crimean-Congo Hemorrhagic Fever, or CCHF, is a viral disease that most people have never heard of, even though it exists across large parts of the world. It's caused by a virus transmitted primarily by ticks, tiny parasites most of us associate with mild illnesses or outdoor inconveniences. Have you ever thought that something as small as a tick could carry a virus with such serious consequences? CCHF was first identified decades ago and is now found in regions across Africa, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and Asia. Unlike viruses that suddenly explode into global headlines, CCHF tend to appear in sporadic cases and regional clusters. This quieter pattern makes it easy to overlook. But does a disease need to be on the news every day to be dangerous? The illness itself can look very different from person to person. Some people experience mild, flu-like symptoms, while others develop severe hemorrhagic disease. In the most serious cases, CCHF can lead to internal bleeding, organ failure, and shock. The unpredictability is part of what makes this virus so concerning. You can't always tell early on who will become severely ill. Another reason health authorities take CCHF seriously is its wide geographic spread, combined with high fatality rates in severe cases. A virus that appears in multiple regions and can cause life-threatening illness creates unique challenges for surveillance and response. What would it take for health systems in different countries to recognize and respond quickly to something that doesn't look like a large outbreak at first? So when we talk about what CCHF is, we're really talking about how hidden risks can exist in plain sight. A disease doesn't have to dominate headlines to matter. Understanding CCHF helps us recognize that global health threats aren't always loud. Sometimes they move quietly, appearing in small clusters, until attention finally catches up. How does CCHF spread? CCHF spreads in a way that surprises many people because it doesn't move through the air like the flu or COVID-19. The primary route of transmission is through the bite of infected ticks, especially those that feed on livestock, such as cattle, sheep, and goats. Have you ever considered that a small insect bite could carry a virus with life-threatening potential? People who work closely with animals face a higher risk of exposure. Farmers, veterinarians, and slaughterhouse workers may come into contact with infected blood or tissues while handling animals, even if the animals themselves don't look sick. This makes CCHF different from many diseases we associate only with visibly ill hosts. How often do we assume that danger is obvious when, in reality, it isn't? The virus can also spread from person to person through direct contact with blood or bodily fluids. This risk is especially present in healthcare settings when protective equipment isn't used correctly or consistently. Caregivers and medical workers are often on the front lines during outbreaks, and their exposure highlights how critical basic infection control measures really are. Unlike airborne diseases, CCHF doesn't spread through casual contact like sharing the same space or breathing the same air. This is an important distinction because it helps reduce unnecessary fear. You don't catch CCHF by passing someone on the street. Transmission requires specific, close contact, but in rural and agriculture environments, those kind of exposures can be part of everyday life. Finally, the way CCHF spread shows how closely human health is tied to our environment and occupations. Where livestock farming is common and tick exposure is frequent, the risk becomes part of daily reality. This raises a broader question. How many health risks are shaped not just by biology, but by where we live and the work we do? Why is CCHF so dangerous? One of the most dangerous aspects of CCHF is how quickly it can escalate. Early symptoms often look like common illnesses: fever, muscle pain, headache, dizziness, the kind of symptoms many people would normally ignore or treat at home. Have you ever delayed seeing a doctor because something felt not that serious at first? With CCHF, that delay can make a critical difference. As the disease progresses, severe cases can develop internal bleeding, bruising, and organ failure. The virus can overwhelm multiple systems in the body in a short period of time, pushing patients into a life-threatening condition before there is much time to react. This rapid deterioration is one of the reasons CCHF is considered so dangerous by health professionals. Another major factor is a high fatality rate in severe outbreaks, which can reach up to 40% depending on healthcare access and how early supportive treatment begins. This means that where you are and how quickly you receive care can dramatically influence outcomes. It raises an uncomfortable question. How many lives are lost not because a disease is unstoppable, but because care arrives too late? CCHF is also dangerous because there is no widely available, specific antiviral cure. Treatment focuses on supportive care, managing symptoms, stabilizing patients, and preventing complications. While supportive care can save lives, it relies heavily on early recognition and access to proper medical facilities. In regions where healthcare resources are limited, the virus can be far more deadly. Finally, CCHF is dangerous because it operates in the background of everyday activities like farming, animal handling, and rural life. It doesn't always announce itself with large outbreaks, which means cases can go unnoticed until they become severe. A disease that escalates quickly, has no specific cure, and appears quietly in scattered cases is a serious challenge for any health system. And that's why CCHF remains on the global health radar. Real risk for you perspective. For most people watching this video, the direct risk of CCHF is low, especially if you don't live in or travel to regions where the virus is present. Casual, everyday contact doesn't transmit CCHF, and it's not something people encounter in normal daily life in most parts of the world. Have you ever noticed how our perception of danger is often shaped more by scary headlines than by actual likelihood? That said, low risk doesn't mean no risk at all. In a connected world, people move across borders for work, travel, and humanitarian efforts. Occasionally, cases of CCHF are identified outside endemic regions when someone becomes infected during travel. These situations are rare, but they remind us that diseases don't stay neatly contained by geography alone. Another factor changing the risk landscape is climate and environmental change. As temperatures shift and ecosystems change, the habitats of ticks and the animals they feed on can expand or move into new areas. This means that tick-borne diseases may appear in places where they were previously uncommon. Have you ever thought about how environmental changes could reshape which diseases exist around us? For most viewers, the real risk is not everyday exposure, but what happens in specific contexts, rural communities, agricultural settings, and healthcare environments where contact with infected blood or ticks is more likely. These localized risks can lead to small outbreaks if protective measures aren't in place. This highlights how unevenly health risks are distributed around the world. There's also a human factor in risk, awareness and response. When people know what CCHF is and how it spreads, they are more likely to recognize symptoms early and seek care. When healthcare workers are trained and equipped, they can protect themselves and prevent further transmission. The difference between a contained case and a growing outbreak often comes down to preparedness. So the real risk for you isn't living in fear of CCHF in your daily life. The real risk is underestimating how quickly localized threats can escalate when awareness is low and resources are limited. Staying informed doesn't mean being afraid. It means understanding where the true risks lie and supporting systems that catch problems early before they grow into something larger. CCHF shows how diseases carried by animals and insects can pose serious risks even when they stay under the radar. Understanding where these threats come from and how they spread is key to protecting both local communities and global health. If you want more breakdowns of rare but dangerous viruses scientists are watching closely, subscribe to the channel and comment below which virus you want covered next.